We've all been there, right? That call where you can practically feel the heat rising through the phone lines. Dealing with angry customers, it's just part of the job in a contact center. But it doesn't have to feel like, walking a tightrope over an active volcano.
Right.
So today's deep dive, we're talking about giving your team, those amazing agents, the tools they need, the techniques to really handle those tough calls and come out on top. Like, how do we turn those hair-raising moments into wins?
Exactly, yeah. It's about making sure your agents feel confident, like they've got this no matter what a caller throws their way.
Totally. I love that. And, these training manuals we're looking at, they're packed with great stuff, really smart strategies.
Mm.
One that stood out to me, I don't know about you, was this whole idea of a cycle of anger, almost like a roadmap.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like if
yeah.
we understand the journey, right, then we can kind of anticipate what's coming next.
Exactly. And, like any good map, helps us figure out where we are, where we're going.
Totally.
Yeah.
So walk us through it. What are the key points on this anger road trip we might find ourselves on?
Okay, so picture this, right? Customer calls in. It's about a billing error, something like that. At first, they're mildly annoyed, right? Maybe a little confused.
Okay.
They're in that initial trigger phase, we'll call it.
Okay, so like a slow burn at this point, but still manageable, right?
Yeah, you could say that. But then, as the issue drags on, maybe they get transferred a time or two, or they feel like they're not being heard.
Oh, I can feel it already.
Right. That's when they shift gears, move into what we call the escalation phase. Voice gets louder, maybe their speech gets a bit faster. You can practically hear the frustration bubbling over.
Yeah, that's where things get tense, for
Yeah.
sure. Not just for the agent, but for the customer, too. You're both kind of on edge.
Exactly. And this is where it gets interesting, because the training manual, it talks about the physiology of anger, like the science behind it. You know that fight or flight response everyone talks about?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It kicks in.
Really? You mean to tell me a frustrating phone call can trigger that kind of, primal response?
It might seem extreme, I know, but sometimes our bodies, they don't always distinguish between actual physical danger, like a bear chasing you,
Right.
and a perceived attack on our well-being, which, let's face it, a rude comment or feeling dismissed or even just being put on hold for too long.
The hold music strikes again.
Exactly. Those can all feel like threats, especially if the customer is already stressed to begin with, right?
Okay, and that fight or flight, it can show up in a bunch of ways, right? It's
Yeah.
not always like yelling.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Some folks, they lash out verbally, right? Get aggressive, argumentative, that's the classic fight response. But then you have others, they kind of shut down, get withdrawn, unresponsive. That's the flight kicking in.
Wow. And recognizing which mode a customer's in, that's got to be huge for an agent.
Game changer, absolutely. It's all about adapting your approach to meet them where they are. It's tempting though, right? To just, fight fire with fire, especially when it feels personal.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, you're not attacking me personally.
Right. But the thing is, and the manuals are really clear about this, that is like the fastest way to make things a million times worse. It's
Yeah.
just going to escalate everything. Instead, they talk about this, are you ready for it? This adult mode.
Okay, adult mode.
Yeah.
Does this involve, me politely asking the customer to please hold while I transfer them to their inner child?
Huh. Not quite. Although I kind of love that visual. It's more about, even when the customer is in that reactive child place or they've gone full on parent mode, lecturing.
Right, yeah.
You're coming from this calm, logical, like the grown up in the room kind of space.
Okay, so channeling my inner Mr. Rogers,
Yeah.
even when someone's practically breathing fire through the phone. Got it.
Exactly. And the best part, the manuals have actual practical techniques to help agents do this.
Okay, because that'll be my next question. How? So lay it on me.
One of the simplest, but honestly most effective things is active listening.
Oh, active listening.
Mm.
Right. Makes sense, but it's got to be more than just waiting for my turn to talk, yeah.
You got it. It's about really tuning in to what they're saying and not just the words, but the emotion behind it, letting them feel heard, even if you don't have a magic solution right that second.
It's giving them that space to vent, to get it out, without the whole thing becoming a runaway train.
Yes. And they have these great tips for doing this. Have you ever heard of minimal encouragers?
Minimal encouragers. I feel like maybe I've heard that, but remind me.
So simple. Just small things you say, right?
Yeah.
Yes, go on, I understand, that kind of thing.
Right.
Shows them you're right there with them
Yeah.
without actually interrupting or derailing their whole train of thought.
Oh, I see. Because sometimes jumping in, even with good intentions, it's like, nope, we're starting this train all over again.
Exactly.
Hmm.
This way, it validates their feelings, which honestly is usually what an angry customer needs most,
Yeah.
to feel like, okay, this person actually gets it.
It's huge. Okay, so active listening, check. What other, like, golden nuggets are in these training manuals?
Oh, they get into the language we use, which is so powerful. Like, even tiny tweaks can make a huge
That's
difference.
word choice, man. It's everything. You can either calm the fire or throw gasoline on it. Give me an example.
Okay, so instead of saying, that sounds frustrating, which, kind of puts it all on the customer,
Right.
try, that sounds challenging, it shifts the focus to the problem itself.
Oh, subtle, but I like it.
Right. Or instead of fault, like, whose fault is this? Which just gets everyone defensive. Talk about accountability.
Okay.
Feels less like pointing fingers, more like, hey, we're in this together, let's figure it out.
It's about moving away from blame towards a solution.
I
Dig
just,
it.
exactly. And that shift, it can be so de-escalating because it creates this feeling of partnership.
Like you said, that adult mode, we're not getting sucked into the drama. We're about understanding
Mhm.
and problem solving. Love it.
Right.
Now, this all makes sense for, like, phone calls, but I'm curious, what about face-to-face? Does it change things?
Oh, such a good point. Because now you've got this whole other layer, right? It's not just what we say, it's our faces, our body language, the whole 9 yards.
And we all know, those nonverbals, they can speak volumes, sometimes even louder than our words, and not always in a good way.
It's true. I mean, we all do it, right? Make these snap judgments based on like a look or a gesture. And it's easy to forget, especially in the heat of the moment, that communication, it's not just about the words.
Oh, for sure. And I feel like misinterpreting those cues, it happens like 10 times more when there's already tension. You think someone's giving you the cold shoulder, and really they just spilled coffee on their shirt 5 minutes ago,
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly. We're bringing all our own baggage or assumptions to the table. And you're right, face to face, it all gets kind of magnified, which is why smart folks that they are, the training manual people, they dedicate a whole section to this stuff.
Okay, good. Because I was going to ask, like, how do we navigate that minefield? What do they suggest?
All right. So one thing they talk about is get ready for it, mirroring and matching.
Mirroring and matching. Sounds intense.
It's not as out there as it sounds, I promise. Basically, it's about subtly reflecting back the customer's posture, their energy level as a way to like build that rapport.
So, like, if they're leaning forward, I lean into. If they're speaking really softly, I gotta, like, whisper back.
You got the idea. But, and this is key, subtly. We're not trying to be their mirror image. That'd be creepy. Just finding that natural way to, sync up our energy a bit, show we're on the same wavelength.
Okay, less copycat, more like, hey, we're in this together kind of vibe. I like it. Anything else for the face-to-face folks?
Yeah, they're big on something they call attentive posture. Basically, little things, leaning in slightly when they're talking, tilting your head, making sure you're making eye contact shows you're present.
Right, like, I'm here with you, I'm listening, not zoning out thinking about what I'm getting for lunch.
Exactly. And I know this might sound obvious, but especially when things are tense, it's easy to forget this stuff.
Oh, totally. You're so focused on just getting through the interaction, your own body language is the last thing on your mind.
Right. But here's the thing, and this is where that whole fake it till you make it thing, it actually holds water.
Hmm.
Like literally science backs this up. Our body language doesn't just reflect our emotions, it can actually influence them. So even if inside you're freaking out a little, standing tall, making eye contact, even just like a genuine smile, it can actually make you feel more confident.
No way. Our bodies can, like, trick our brains into being braver.
Hmm.
I love that. And that's good advice for, like, everyone, not just customer service, right?
100%. Harness that nonverbal power. Shift the whole dynamic.
Love it. And speaking of shifting the dynamic, what about those times where no matter how great your agents are, there's just no fixing it right now? Like,
Yeah.
system's down, everyone's internet's out, their package is on a ship that's lost at sea. How do you deal with that frustration?
Oh man, that is the million-dollar question, right? Because sometimes we can't solve every problem instantly, which is hard for people to hear. And honestly, in those moments, being real, being empathetic, that's everything.
Totally. Nobody wants to hear, yeah, your internet's going to be down for like 12 hours, sorry. But trying to sugarcoat it, making promises you can't keep, that just makes it worse later.
Oh, 100%. And this is where the training people, they have this great idea they call reframing the problem, which It's a mouthful, but it's good stuff.
Reframing the problem. I'm intrigued. Break it down for me.
So it's about shifting the focus from what's outside your control to what you can control. Like, yeah, the outage sucks. You can't wave a magic wand and fix it that second. But you acknowledge that, you validate the customer's feelings, then you say, okay, here's what I can do.
Give me an example, because I feel like this is where it gets real practical.
So instead of, yeah, that outage is brutal, sorry about that, you say, I understand how frustrating this delay must be, especially with how much you rely on our internet. I totally get it. That's the empathy part. Then let's see what options we have. Maybe a workaround. Or I can flag this for a supervisor to fast track your problem solving with them.
It's like, yeah, we hit a dead end, but now we're going to find a detour, figure it out together. Powerful stuff.
Right. And sometimes it's about boundaries too, you know?
Oh, yeah. When someone's gone from frustrated to like straight up abusive, that's got to be tough.
It is. In the training, it actually gives phrases for that, which I love. Like,
Yeah.
I hear that you're upset and I want to help, but for me to do that, I need you to stop yelling so we can actually find a solution together.
Ooh, I like that. It's firm, but still respectful.
Right. It's holding that line, protecting yourself and the customer without getting sucked into the negativity vortex.
So it's not about pretending anger doesn't exist. It's about like understanding it, not taking it personally, and using those amazing communication skills to turn it into something productive.
Exactly. That's the heart of it. Giving our agents the tools to handle those tough conversations with, confidence, A&D, compassion, knowing they can create a better outcome for everyone, which honestly, that's a superpower.
It really is.
Yeah.
Turning those calls that could gone off the rails into something.
Yeah.
Dare I say, positive.
And dare say.
Amazing. Well, I feel a million times more prepared for my next frustrating call. I'm not even going to lie.
Me too.
This was fantastic. Thanks for geeking out on the training manuals with me.
Anytime.
And to everyone listening, keep learning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep those conversations flowing. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.